15,000 strong on Facebook. Welcome to the Droids Where I'm Looking For podcast. And it starts now.
And here we go.
So we can...
Boobs with a chance of dragons?
Yes.
Yeah, these power dragons, and apparently they're grown up now.
Well, they're getting big.
Yeah.
Yes, we got to hear how they're sexually mature.
I don't remember that part, but okay.
No.
Alright, so this is going to be, episode 24, and we're going to be remote again. Hopefully Rick will stick around. Right, Rick?
Yeah. I'm on 4G, so I should be good.
The power of Skype calls. So we got a lot of topics we want to whip through. Some things that people want to talk about, and some things we want to talk about, I guess. I guess we'll start off with the How I Met Your Mother ending. I guess this is causing quite the controversy, and I do know that there was the rumor floating around that they were going to do a whole additional show of How I Met Your Father. I remember hearing about that. I don't know if that's going to happen now. But now the show is listed as this having the worst ending to any show. And I read an article, and I just had to put this in. This makes the ending to The Sopranos look like a happy ending. And that ending was pretty horrible. I don't want to watch this show now. Everyone kept telling me I need to watch the show because it's a really good show. But if the series finale was so controversial, why would I want to watch it now? Just to be pissed off at the end, I guess. I don't know. What's everyone's thoughts on that?
Well, honestly, I watched a little bit at the beginning, I watched a little bit in the middle, and I just never really got into the program. But at the same time, to completely write off an entire series just because one episode was really, really, really horrible. I mean, would you tell someone not to watch The Sopranos just because of the final episode, or even Dexter?
Well, I mean, I think Dexter kind of lost his magic when it came to after season 4, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that. It just felt like the show was just being dragged on, and The Sopranos didn't have that feeling being dragged on. It was just the ending was very controversial because you just will never know, and now you will never know because James Gandolfini is dead on how that actually ended. They're just going to basically leave it at that. But I think they did it on purpose because everyone wanted the ending to be the way it was supposed to be, and it didn't happen that way, and I think that's the real reason why everyone's pissed off, is because they expected an ending to be ending A, ended up being ending B, and they ended up basically crucifying a character over it. I won't lie, I don't know much about it, but I basically know that the character Robin basically got crucified over the whole ending of the show.
No, there's only so much you can really do about so many things, but I don't know, to write off an entire series, especially one that ran for as long as How I Met Your Mother, based off of the final episode or the final season, just I don't know, it sounds to me too diminishing of the overall body of work.
I'm gonna guess Rick's got nothing to say because he's pretty quiet.
Well, no. First off, I mean, I don't know which reason. I don't think Robin wasn't crucified by any means on there. If anything, I mean, she had a good ending. I don't think it was bad. I have watched the show. I binge watched for a long time, and then I did see like the latest. We watched the final episode. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. I found it to be, I don't know. The only way I can put it without really giving spoilers is they made the ending that everyone wanted.
Yeah.
But they did throw in a few things that you're like, okay, that just totally goes against everything in the entire show. So, I mean, it wasn't bad by any means. It was your typical tearjerker.
So, Rainer.
Yes.
You go ahead and talk about it if you want about How I Met Your Mother. Well, I didn't meet your mother. I'm talking about the show.
You met my mom?
Mm-mm. I'm saying I never met your mom.
Oh.
I'm talking about the show.
I'm your mom.
What?
Anyway, no mom jokes.
That wasn't a mom joke.
Anyway. Well, as someone who was watching the show since pretty much day one, it kind of makes sense now. I mean, how else would you say, oh, this is how I met your mother, other than someone's passed, someone's died, and now it kind of makes sense. It's like, oh my god, the whole time she's been dead. I mean, I'm not happy about that, to be perfectly honest, but the fact that she got nothing, she got no funeral scene, no one grieving over her after 9 years of Ted telling this story. It was 6 years later kind of thing. Like, I don't care. If you haven't seen it, it's been out for 2 weeks. If you're an avid fan of the show, you probably downloaded it. I don't care about spoilers. So, yeah. I mean, the fact that he ends up with Robin again is like, you know what? After all of that, after the entire 9th season being about the marriage, and then they get divorced, and Barney just goes back to his old ways. The mother ends up dying. She barely gets they don't really tell her story much, and then it just goes back to Robin. And I do think that Robin got crucified. I mean, like I said, I was reading reviews, and everyone's just, it's so one-sided. Well, Robin's this, Robin's that. Robin is selfish for abandoning Marshall and Lily, and, she's such a selfish career woman. I'm like, are you kidding me? People are pissed off about this? Just bite me. Just freaking bite me. Like, I have no issues with how they portrayed Robin. It's the fact that after all this time, Ted was still in love with Robin, despite meeting the, quote, love of his life. So I was disappointed with the ending, but now it makes sense, because it's a story about how I met your mother, because she's dead. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I get it now, but they could have done a little bit more with it. They could have not used the entire 9th season for a wedding, and then 1 hour for the finale. They could have used a few more episodes to tie stuff together, but they didn't. That's where they went wrong.
Right. And I think that, just from the outside looking in, they did a lot of build up for that episode, and I don't know, I guess it is in terms of throwing a right hook, it is a fantastic one, because no one could have ever foreseen that to occur. That I'll give you, but I find that it's not necessarily a trend. I find that a lot of shows are on for such a long time that they don't know how to end it correctly. And you could say, and this is my opinion only, but I mean, you look at Seinfeld, that ending kind of sucked. It was like, oh, that's how it's... After all that, of all the bad jokes and the horrible, listen to Jerry Seinfeld alone is taxing. The Dexter ending, the Sopranos ending, and so forth and so forth. Maybe they just ran out of ideas and went, well, we give them what they want. It's kind of not what we want, so we should throw a left hook and throw a right hook and see what happens. But I mean, it's not the first time that something like this has happened before, but not to this extremity. And I think maybe that's why everyone's a little bit more pissy about it.
All the way into, I mean, the biggest thing on the episode that I found that, honestly, like, I couldn't stand, that would kind of piss me off, was, like you said, okay, so the mom died, yeah, that makes sense. There was literally, like, a 2-minute thing there, and then your mom got sick, they showed her in the hospital, and then... done.
Don't know what happened there, but I got a pile. So,
yeah, I like that.
Who is it?
It might have been me.
Is it you?
Might have been.
I can just hear myself slightly.
Is it me?
No, it must have been Rainer. That's okay.
No, I'm pretty sure it's me.
Are you sure? Because that's a lot of reverb.
Because I just heard myself. I don't hear it now, but...
Oh, well, good job, whatever you didn't do there.
Hey!
Back to ranting. Hey, Pudding. Let's go. I don't remember who was talking now, because that totally threw me for a fucking loop.
Rick.
I was talking. I was saying I got pissed off at the fact that the mom dying literally got like a 2-minute piece.
Not even. It was, and then when your mom got sick and she was in the hospital, and then that's it.
Yeah.
They don't say what she died of. They don't show a funeral. They show nothing, and I'm like, what? After all of this, it's the story of how we met the mother, and really? She doesn't even get that much? Come on.
And then to end back to the predictable ending. I mean, everyone watching the show, I mean, I think you'll agree with me. The entire time, they're like, oh, he's going to end up with Robin. Oh, yep. He's going to end up with Robin. And then he does at the end. It's like, are you kidding? I mean, like, no one saw that coming.
Oh, I mean, in terms of... I'm not even a person who's watched an episode of the show, and I thought that as well. Because of how it was, presented to everybody. So at the end, for me, it was just kind of like, really? What? Like, I honestly thought that it was going to be Robin. And just to find out it wasn't, it was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, you built the show in such a way called How I Met Your Mother, and we really don't meet the mother death stuff things. A little bit out of the norm for me. I guess that was kind of a shitty ending, I guess I would say. But
the mother just didn't get enough at all. Like, she didn't... I mean, the one episode was How Your Mother Met Me. That was probably the most fantastic episode. But again, it still wasn't enough. The fact that the entire 9th season revolved around a wedding, like a marriage that lasted 3 years, and then Barney going back to his freaking, Playboy ways. It's like, come on, man. Like, seriously, you haven't grown up at all. You haven't changed a freaking thing at all. Come on. Just because you're single, whatever. Like, just, I don't know. Just bugged me. And then he knocks someone up, doesn't take any responsibility for it, and then suddenly he sees he sees his daughter, and, that kind of made me choke up a little bit, but I'm like, really? You didn't even want to take responsibility for it. Like, come on.
I mean, I think it was really lacking a good ending, and that's what I think the standing of Dynamite is. I mean, the best ending I've ever seen of any TV show was 6 Feet Under, because at the end of that show, there was no loose ends, there was no possibilities, there was no what ifs, nothing. Basically, this is the end of the show, everyone dies, everyone lives a life beyond the show, but everyone dies, and it's a happy ending. At the end of this show, it sounds like, okay, but here's some controversy for you. Figure it out on your own.
And I still want to know what's the story behind the pineapple. They never explained it. They said they were going to, and they never did.
No, they didn't.
Isn't that pineapple the thing that used to get shoved up out of Hitler's ass?
I
that was
don't know.
Little Nicky. That's what they did.
Yeah, I know. There was something, he woke up from a hard night of drinking, and there was a pineapple, and then they're like, but that's for another story at a later time. And they never explain it.
No.
Maybe
that pissed me off.
Sorry, go ahead.
I found a few continuity, at least one, back in... It has a flash forward, and I forget the year of the flash forward, but it's Marshall, Lily, and Ted... eating a sandwich, quote, which was code for smoking a joint, and then Ted's like, where's my wife? But this is past 2030, and he's still wearing a wedding ring, and she's been dead by this point, so it's like, okay, so obviously the whole time they didn't intend for her to be dead if they, at the beginning, did stuff like, they did that. So there was a few, I found that continuity error, so...
Unless Indian marrying Robin.
Then they should have said that.
Yeah.
They should have done a lot. They should have done a lot of things, and that's the problem with. I think with television now is that there's so many viewers and so many people that you need to. I don't want to say appease, but appease. In order not to have a huge outcry at the end of a series. Well, I don't know whether this was the writer's image of the whole thing from the beginning. A little bit has to be given to them as they're the ones responsible for bringing it all together.
Well, I mean, writers, I find, and this is just me, and I know I'm going to be starting a whole debate out of the comments, so I'm sorry in advance. I find that writers in general, there's a lot of writers as of late, are fucking lazy. And, I mean, a lot of the work I've seen in a lot of TV shows as of late, it feels like it's a lot of recycled things. And maybe it just got to the end. It's like the infamous joke of Good Will Hunting and how it was written. It was Matt Damon writing it while Ben Affleck was on the couch smoking weed and eating cheesies. Maybe that's kind of what happened. They kind of wrote How I Met Your Mother. They didn't expect it to be this big for this long, and then the time went on for so long, they're like, shit, how do we end this? Well, Mother was already dead. This was just a joke. Fuck everybody. They could, like, with the point, like, they're ending the show anyways. They made their millions. They've done everything they want to do. Like, I mean, there's a lot of shows that suffer from poor writing on a constantly daily basis. And this feels like a poor writing scenario. And if it's not, then someone else needs to be pistol whipped, because if you're going to end a show like that because this much controversy, I don't even know why you're even in the business.
I think it was more the show just went on for so long. They had so many different directions they could have gone with it that they didn't know how to end it. So they just, okay, quick, throw something together. This is what happens.
And quite possibly could be that as well. And like I was saying earlier, it could end up being like the whole Dexter scenario. Like, oh, you went way too long. The opportunity of ending the show on a high note is gone, so we have to end it on this note. Like, I mean, off the top, I can only name like 5 shows on my hand right now where it ended, where I didn't walk away from that show going, this was horseshit. Like, I mean, like Breaking Bad is a prime example.
That's how you do an ending. Again, no loose ends. You pretty much know that Jesse's gone to get the hell out, and Walt dies. He's killed everyone that came into his path, because like that infamous line that I'm the one who knocks, and yeah, he turned into that guy. He took care of everyone that screwed him over, and yeah, that's how you make an ending. That's it. Everyone needs to follow in the footsteps of Breaking Bad.
Well, not everyone can afford Vince Gilligan nowadays, especially since he made such a huge check off of that. Breaking Bad just was the perfect equation, and it's hard to say because of the type of show it was compared to How I Met Your Mother, but I mean, I find that a lot of shows in the comedy genre have a very hard time closing because they just don't know how to. Even Married with Children, its ending was kind of like, we'll take it. Wasn't the greatest ending, but we'll take it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and you'll find this too, I think, when you watch Sons of Anarchy, right, Todd? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you'll find this too when Sons of Anarchy finally ends, is they've already, they've announced, writers and the creators of it have announced they already have a set path that they know the show is going to follow, and they already know how it's going to end. The same was, it was the same with Breaking Bad. They already knew how they were going to end the series before they even got to the second season. So I think that's the biggest part of writing something that's good, is knowing where the show is going to end. And when you've had something that runs for, 10 seasons that How I Met Your Mother ran?
9.
9?
That's still a lot.
9 seasons? Okay, that's an incredible amount. But knowing, when you get that far in, you kind of lose where the series is going to end. And if you haven't had a clear image of what the end game is before you even start, you're kind of right. You can end up writing yourself into a corner, which is clearly what happened with, shows like Dexter and How I Met Your Mother. I think what people need to do going forward, if they want to have good endings and endings that aren't going to cause big fan problems, is know how it's going to end when you start, so that you can always, no matter what, bring the story back to where you want it to be, no matter how far out you get, whether it's 3 seasons, 4 seasons, 5 seasons, 9 seasons, etc.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think a lot of shows suffer because they just run out, not necessarily of ideas, but they don't have that predetermined path of, we're going to end it on this note. Like, even Smallville, as much, I think the show is on longer than it should have been, like, the ending was just right. Like, I mean, they brought back, after lots of begging, of course, Michael Rosenbaum just to do his 10-second cameo as Luthor, just to end the show. So it's basically, all right, Superman's official. that's the end of the show because now he can go straight to a movie if it needed to be. But you don't want to end up like shows like 24 where there's no ending ever, and it's just Kiefer Sutherland literally never going to the bathroom in 24 hours. I mean, I'm
sure that happens when he's not on the screen.
Wow, that was like a joke on the set. I remember reading a long time ago. There has to be a scene because someone was complaining about Kiefer's never coming out of a bathroom. Like, he's got to go at some point. The guy did have a rough time in the show, and they're still able to bring it back for a mini-series, which is still impressive, I'll give it that. So, Speaking of death, we've had a lot of death this year. A lot more death than I'm willing to admit. We lost Harold Ramis recently, Mickey Rooney, Ultimate Warrior, James Rebhorn, John Panette, and now Shadowfax, the fucking horse from Lord of the Rings, has perished.
Don't forget Peaches Geldof.
Oh, yeah.
And she was 25, and they still don't know what happened.
I remember when I read that article, I don't know if I was half asleep. I didn't read the band name, I read Band-Aid. And when I was doing the news podcast, I'm like, and the creator of the Band-Aid's daughter died. And then I replayed it after, I was like, oh, well, it's funny. I'm gonna keep it.
Oh, no, you kept it.
I was like, because I listened to it after, I'm like, that is actually kind of funny. That the irony of the person who created the Band-Aid's daughter died. That's just... But... who is the next death? Like, the Ultimate Warrior just signed a contract, got inducted to the Hall of Fame. I know not all of us are up to snuff about wrestling, but it's just irony. Goes out to the car after a show, goes to his car, heart attack, dead.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. And it's not... Like, Harold Ramis was a huge blow, I think, to everyone in 2014. Especially to anyone and everyone who wanted that Ghostbusters 3 movie.
Well, it does look like it's still going ahead. It's just Ivan Reitman will no longer be directing it, because he really apparently wasn't on board to begin with. It was only Ramis' involvement that kept him in. But he's helping them find a director to take it forward, so it's apparently still a go. It's just going to be different.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the point what is the point of trying to, I don't know, do it anyways, because they never really had Bill Murray involved to begin with, because that was just an argument on its own. It was just really Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Ivan Reitman, and, what's his fucking name?
Ernie Hudson?
Thank you. I can't believe I forgot his name. I'm, like, excited to meet him in a few months.
Gonna be at Comic-Con, dude.
I know, I forgot. It slipped me. And I was very upset, because Harold Ramis is quite a funny guy in his own merit.
Oh, if you haven't seen him in a movie, you've seen a movie that he's written.
Absolutely. Rainer, I think you were saying something?
No.
Oh, I thought you... I don't know, I just saw the thing flip up that you were saying something. Sorry. Won't do that again.
What?
But who's next to die?
Let's not ask that question.
Like, I'm really getting annoyed at this point. Like, I mean, last year...
Oh, I know. It's so preventable.
No, but I mean... I'm just like I'm honestly worried at this point. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna find out, and the entire Montreal Canadiens team was wiped out in an accidental bus tip.
It could happen. The Russian hockey team died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean, we certainly don't hope anything like that ever happens. But I mean, if I had to guess, do you want us to actually start like a death pool here or something?
Look, I mean, everyone's basically set. Keith Richards has to go at any time here. How is this man still alive?
He will never die. They just keep reviving him with more drugs.
Yeah, he's taken so many drugs now that he's just immortal.
Same thing with Ozzy Osbourne. Like, I mean, last I checked, and I'm sure all of us can agree, if Black Sabbath was coming to town, you would know about it, right? I found out 3 days before the show. In Hamilton. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Like, I mean, Black Sabbath is a huge crowd pull, and it's like, by the way, Black Sabbath is at Hamilton. What? Like, this is like ACC type of arena of people, and it went to Cops Coliseum, and they're still alive. I don't even know how Ozzy Osbourne is still walking, let alone being alive. Yeah, Keith Richards will never die. 3 things will survive the nuclear apocalypse. Analog phones, Twinkies. Keith Richards. Oh, sorry. Analog phones, I'm going to revisit that. It was actually a Nokia analog phone.
No, it was digital. The 400 series was a digital phone.
It's only going to be the Nokia one. The most reliable will survive. And I would tape that to the end of a stick and use it as a weapon to kill zombies. For sure. Because that thing will survive anything. But we'll move on from death. Oh, wait, we're back to death. Well, not yet. So, Benedict Cumberbatch rules himself out of Star Wars Episode 7 and Doctor Who. That is a huge loss for both franchises.
Yes and no. I mean, he's busy enough with Sherlock. It's definitely a blow to Star Wars, but Doctor Who gets plenty of great actors, and it just rules out all the people that have been shipping a Doctor Who Sherlock crossover spin-off idea. So I don't think it's too big a blow to Doctor Who fans, but for Star Wars, yeah, because we've all seen him in Star Trek Into Darkness now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, and he was an incomparable villain there. I mean, he commands presence on his screen. His voice just compels you to look at him. And even when he was slightly modulated as Smaug in the most recent Hobbit film, you still listened and paid attention. He's an incredible actor, and I'm sure he'll do something equally brilliant further on down the road, even if it isn't with Star Wars or Doctor Who.
Well, I think it's a loss for Star Wars, not as much as Doctor Who. I think he'd be a good doctor, not now anyways, maybe further down the road. But Star Wars Episode 7, I can honestly tell you, short of Peter Mayhew, there's not one person there that makes me want to watch this movie. If I was not a Star Wars fan. If I was a newborn person going, there's this movie called Star Wars coming out, there is no attraction for me to go that direction right now. But I am a pretty fan from the previous 2 trilogies, and I'm going to go see it, and hopefully my eyes won't burn out of my face while watching this movie. And it will be good. This is me being delusional and hopeful with lens flares. Lots of lens flares.
And shaky cam.
I didn't realize how many fucking lens flares this guy does until I watched Fringe. I'm surprised that my retinas haven't burned out yet. I didn't understand how much he loves the lens flare. I understand the joke, I understand Star Trek, but every time you're watching Fringe, every episode there's at least 10 of them.
Well, it's just kind of his style. I mean, he did tone it down in the second Star Trek movie, and I'm sure there will not be a whole lot, because getting called out on it as much as he has been, looks like he's been calming things down.
A little bit.
Yeah, but Mike Bay still blows everything up.
Well, that's because Michael Bay doesn't know how to do anything else. I mean, this is a guy that came from directing commercials.
Gotta start somewhere.
You do have to start somewhere, but at the same time, using everything that there's been no evolution of Michael Bay as a director. He's gone from having to grab your attention with a 30 to 2-minute commercial spot to keeping your attention for a 2-hour movie, and he does that with the exact same tricks and techniques that he uses in a 30-second commercial. Bright colors and explosions.
Color explosion! How exciting is that? Well, let's just hope he never does a Marvel film.
No, Marvel's better than that.
I don't know. I'll lead up to that.
Oh, come on, that was the perfect segue.
I know, I'm leading to it. So, Marvel movies till 2028. So, what? We're basically mapping out the next 14 years of our lives. Do you think this is a very ballsy thing to do? Being as which, let's say, we can't honestly say that Marvel has not had any flops. There's been a few. They have been forgotten. Not forgiven, but forgotten. But to 2028, I can understand 5 years in the future, maybe 10 years, but 14 years in the future, why don't we just round up to 2050 and just say, call it a day?
Well, look at what they've been doing. I mean, they've been building an integrated movie universe through more than just the movie platform now with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And how closely, and I know we're going to get into this later, so I should have probably saved that for the tie-in, but we'll figure out another segue. With the recent Captain America movie. I like what they've been doing. It's ambitious, and it's working out pretty well so far. I mean, when you think about it, they're building a completely separate universe from their comic books, like from the graphic novels and everything else that they do outside of this. So it can be used as an entry point for people that have never read the comic books, and it can exist as its own separate non-comic book universe, which kind of gives them some insulation from fanboy rage that DC's been getting over the latest Man of Steel movie. So I think it's kind of a smart move. I think it holds a lot of promise, and I mean, with Kevin Feige being in charge of everything and keeping one unified vision, I think it's got a lot of potential, especially now that it looks like they're going to be combining some of the Sony properties anyway. I think Spider-Man's staying off on its own, but they're looking to combine Fantastic Four and X-Men into the Disney properties as well. So, I mean, it's ambitious, but it's been successful. I don't see... I mean, look, they took beyond D-listers with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they've created more positive buzz about that movie in a month and a half than DC's been able to create about anything other than short of their Arrow franchise on the CW. So I think it's a good thing. I think it gives people a way into the geek world that isn't as tightly gate-kept as, say, the graphic novel universe is. So I'm all for it, and all the power to them. I hope they're very successful.
Well, I mean, I'm just from the outside looking in, the Guardians of the Galaxy is already going to be a trilogy. That's a given. They're going to be tying it in with Avengers, Age of Ultron, but you're right. They're going to basically interlap everything. But now they're like also wanting to do spin-offs, to do their own things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and Rainer can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Mystique would be... I don't think we can make money off that character. I think we can do something with her in terms of like a team up or something, but I don't think people would be flocking to the movie theaters to say, I'm going to watch a movie with Mystique in it. I mean, well, Wolverine's one thing, because Wolverine is the best favorite X-Men ever created, which I don't even understand. But
he's Canadian, that's why.
That's not... I wish that was the reason, but it's not. But I mean, Mystique's a good character and all, but I don't find her... I don't think I can make money off that character.
No, but you can make money off of Jennifer Lawrence.
They said you can make money off Jennifer Gardner as Elektra. Look what happened there.
They made money off of it, they just didn't make good movies.
Personally, I see this as a way to basically be able to do movies without having to do any character development. You've already got the established characters, you already have everything. There's a lot of them that are already going to be fan favorites that people are going to go see. Basically, you now have an open script, you can write whatever you want to, and you don't have to bother with any character development because they're already established.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and Todd can back me up here. I think they really developed Black Widow's character a lot more in this film than they did in Avengers or Iron Man 2. I mean, you learned a lot more about her. She was deeper. Even Cap, you see a lot more of his man at a time and how he's adjusting. The character development's there, but I think what you're trying to say is maybe they don't have to have as big a hook to get people into the theater.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to start from scratch and figure out, okay, do I like this guy? Do I not like this guy? We have established bad guys. We have established good guys. So that's where I think. I mean, it's they only have to really focus on the storyline, and they're going to somewhat, obviously they do their own thing, but they somewhat follow the storylines of these characters as they go. Obviously, not always the case, but for the most part, they have a pre-established storyline that if they don't want to build off of it, they don't have to. It's already there. I say this, I haven't seen the Captain America movies, those ones. Mainly because I'm not a huge fan of them taking this huge rage of taking the comic book characters and turning them into movies. It's either really good or really bad, and so far, a lot of them, to me, from what I've seen, and it's my opinion, have been really bad.
Well, I think that I'll agree with Andrew that yes, Black Widow had a lot more time on the screen, and she's been proven to carry something on her own. Mind you, I didn't like her hair in this movie. It really bothered me a lot. But I think that is she marketable to have her own movie? No, I don't think so. I think that if she had a walk on an event on the Agents of Shield, absolutely, that'd be a great episode. That'd be a great treat for everyone who still watches that show. But I don't think that she can make her own movie because I think the audience is going to be sitting there. It's kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's use as an example that you're watching the TV show, you're like, Nick Fury is going to show up at some point. And he doesn't show up. And you feel ripped off. That's what I think might happen with Widow. I just don't... She's not a Tony Stark. She's not a Captain America. Or she's not a Thor. She is a regular human being who is very well skilled, very agile, great fighter. That's it. That's all she is. So, and market-wise, I don't see that happening. That's like trying to say, Catwoman should have her own movie. She did! Look how that happened.
Well, again, we're looking at apples and oranges here. Catwoman could have her own movie, but it's all on how it's written. I mean, I think we can all agree that the Halle Berry Catwoman movie was probably the worst kind of garbage that's ever come out for comic books.
I own that movie. I have never watched it. It's a reminder of what shit can look like. I will never watch it. I was basically given the film. And I said, I will not watch this film, but it will be in my collection.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not so much. I don't ever think it's the film's character that's the problem. I mean, Catwoman could carry her own movie. She's got a large enough fan base to make it all on her own. The problem is how it's written, the story, the development, how everything moves from point A to point B. Are there continuity problems? Are there errors with this? You know, when you get into that, that's when you get into bad movie territory. But just because someone doesn't have superpowers or doesn't have a utility belt doesn't make them, I think, a bad character or somebody that couldn't have their own movie just because they lack something there.
Well, it's not even lacking. Her character is basically white bread. It's boring. There's nothing going on there. Like, I mean, sure, she has her little 10 seconds of... Like, I think the best thing she ever did is when she beat the shit out of everyone when she was tied to a chair. That was pretty awesome. I'll give her that. I just don't think she'll ever be a marketable character. She's a nice group-up character. Those people exist. But I don't think she can ever become the Nightwing of this industry where she can go off and do her own thing and people will respect her for it. Even Hawkeye, like, you look at Hawkeye, like, oh, look, it's Jeremy Renner. He's got a bow. Like, I don't see him as a formidable foe. Whereas if Green Lantern was there, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta be worried about Green Lantern. Or I gotta be worried about Thor. Or, I mean, the cat's out of the bag that Downey's going to be Iron Man 2 more times. Eventually, Thor is going to be done. And then... basically, what? Oh, Captain America's done in 2015? That's when he said...
He's signed on for 6 movies, so that's 3 Caps and 3 Avengers.
Okay, so that won't take too long, because they're going to keep writing this one quickly. So,
well, they've got 2 Caps done. Second Avengers is in filming stage, and Cap 3 has been written.
Okay, but I think that... You gotta know when it's time to stop, because these people are going to retire, and it goes back to the Wolverine conversation I was having the other day, is that when Hugh Jackman stops being Wolverine, that should be it for that character. There should be no more Wolverines, because look at all the Batman movies we had. They had all different Batmans, it caused a lot of issues, people got mad about it. They had to wait for a trilogy with the same person, with the same producer, director, and everything, for people to go, I like Batman again, and not feel like they're going to get ousted by people. Because George Clooney was involved at one point.
Well, again, and that's important because you need to have continuity through these kinds of movies. I mean, if you lose that continuity, then you lose the fan base that started watching it.
And that's where my question comes in. I mean, the stories are all tying together. We're talking about numbers on how many episodes they're going to have, everything like that. can they carry it another 14 years without getting stale? Do you honestly think so?
Sure.
Maybe for a newer audience, sure. But I think the current audience that exists right now will eventually lose their interest. Because, I mean, I think X-Men should just finish after Age of Apocalypse. I don't even know. It shouldn't even gone that far. But they should basically say, you know what? X-Men's done. We've made her billions. Let's call it a day. And then they can, go back to Avengers. You got Spider-Man that's doing very well. There's so many characters in the Marvel Universe that people who still read to this day that they can work on. They don't need to keep killing a dead horse just because they know they're going to get money out of it. That's all it's about. It's always going to be about massive amounts of revenue, which X-Men and Avengers have proven they can pull at any given time. Or they just said, hey, we need to make $100 million. Hugh Jackman's going to be Wolverine this week. Good idea.
But again, these sorts of ventures aren't going to be continuously successful if they don't have enough storyline to back it up. Why didn't Daredevil get a sequel? Because it had a bad story. Why didn't Elektra get a sequel? Bad story. I mean, and then from there, with those failures, we've gotten what we've gotten out of Marvel today. One unified vision of the universe going forward. And I think as long as they can continue that, their 14-year movie, 25 movie plan could be very successful.
It could be, but that took a many series of hit and misses before that to happen. And even then, you got the Punisher series that they made one Punisher in the 80s that followed the comic book. Then no one liked it. Then they made another Punisher that kind of followed the comic book but didn't. Everyone's like, this is the best comic book ever. But it wasn't a comic book movie at all because it didn't follow it fully. And then they made another Punisher movie which followed the comic book to a T, to his actual savagery of how he is. Everyone's like, this movie is too gory. No, that's how he is.
Yeah, but it all depends. It depends on the audience that you're looking for. Punisher really speaks to a niche group within the Marvel Universe. It doesn't speak to everybody like X-Men does, like the Avengers do, where you get that broad-based appreciation.
But then explain Deadpool, because Deadpool has a huge broadband range, and a lot of people want to see a Deadpool movie. The only problem is that they want to make it, but they know what's going to happen.
It's got to be R-rating if it's going to be successful.
It has to be. But then they're going to be worried about, well, we're not going to get the audience that we want. Like, well, I mean...
Well, and you know what? As long as they stick to that and they don't make a Deadpool movie, then I'm fine with that. I mean, if they stick to their creative integrity, right, or their artistic integrity, if they keep that with any movie that they make, I think that's fine. Because as soon as they start breaking that, as soon as they start, selling out just to make money, that's when it's going to be a problem. And I don't think that any of the Marvel movies since they started this unified universe idea with the first Iron Man film has done that. I think they haven't sold out their integrity. I think they've stayed true to what they've wanted to put on the screen, and it's showed with everything that's going on.
But they fuck around with a lot of the storylines, though. Like this whole... Like, Iron Man 3 was probably, in my opinion, the worst Iron Man they made. Because he has an issue with alcoholism, not anxiety, but they toned it down so it can be a PG-13 movie and people will understand what's happening. No.
He did have an issue with anxiety, too, but, alcohol has always been a big part of Tony Stark's life.
Right, but why change that? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Why play with something that's a known fact?
Especially when you got someone who's playing the part who has alcohol issues. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. He's rich, he's eccentric, he has an alcohol issue. You couldn't have picked anyone better.
I have to agree with that. Like, I mean, I think I said it before. I think they were kind of... Well, it's not true, but I mean, it feels like they were born to be each other. Iron Man was supposed to be Robert Downey and so forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can battle the semantics on that all day long. All right. We'll see what happens. Like, I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'll give you the point. They're a bunch of delisted actors. You can see what's going to happen. I mean, I'm sold on the trailer, but That doesn't mean anything. We've all been bit back in the ass about a trailer over the last couple of years, where you see all the best scenes in the trailer. So,
but I stay confident with the fact that James Gunn has been behind the helm and some of the writing, so it'll be gold. If not gold, it'll be high-grade silver.
Okay, so let's move on. I know I brought this up before, but now it's really getting a lot of traction, is that they're really pushing for, which is already available for digital download if you have a PlayStation 4. The Last of Us will get a next-gen remake. Now, this is going to mark the second release because Tomb Raider got a nice cleanup job. And do we think this is going to be a trend? I think it's going to be, personally, only because the PlayStation 4 has a lot to offer, and Last of Us, from what, and Rick can vouch on me, and I know Rainer can as well, because she plays it just as much as I do, even on the PlayStation 3, the graphics, the gameplay, the sound, and everything is perfect. So, pushing it onto a PS4, I'm very curious now what it's going to be like.
I'm curious too. I'll play devil's advocate I have the fear of like DVD movie or old VHS movies that get remastered to DVD and you see all the bad special effects, everything like that. I do have a bit of a fear on that. You go so high def that you start showing off your mistakes. But I still have very high hopes. It could be amazing. It was amazing to begin with. Brought it up many times, but that one scene when you were playing it, we were both just sitting there oogling over the screen, just, oh my god, this is amazing.
Especially when you saw your reflection in the sliding door. That's the one specifically that I always remember.
It could go either really good or really bad. I'm hoping, and I think it will go really good.
Yeah, I'm not too worried because I've seen the definitive edition Tomb Raider running on, not on a PS4, but on an Xbox One, and it was gorgeous. Because it unlike remastering something from a VHS to DVD or DVD then to Blu-ray, you're getting an actual reworking of the graphic code in order to do these kinds of next-gen ports. Because the engines are different, which is why we don't get backwards compatibility that everybody's upset about between Xbox and Xbox One 360, PS4, PS3. So I'm very hopeful that this is going to be excellent. It'll be a reason for me to get a PS4 eventually. But I hope it doesn't become a trend, because as soon as it becomes too much of one, we might lose out on new intellectual properties, new IPs coming out with new ideas and new stories. And really, that's what needs to drive gaming going forward, rather than nostalgic looks back.
Well, and I can understand that. And what PlayStation's done in the past, I know when I got my PS3, is that they have a select set of games that, if you're willing to pay a dummy fee of, I think it was $15 or whatever, that they'll port everything. You can basically port it over to the PlayStation 4 for just except for that dummy fee. That's the only thing you pay. But if you buy the new version, it's $69.99. Comes included with the DLC pack that just recently came out. A couple of multiplayer maps, and I think some additional weapons and costumes. I can tell you from me and Rainer's experience last week about the multiplayer on Last of Us. No. It is too goddamn hard. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of campers in this world. I mean, these guys are good. There's just no way I took that one headshot. I literally stuck my head out half an inch and I was eating the bullet as soon as my head popped out. But keep in mind, these people just sit around and play video games. But, okay. So, wow, we've already burned through a lot of time.
We might have been using an aiming bot too. That's not unusual.
Oh, yeah. So I guess we'll just wrap up today. I know we're missing a bunch of topics, but we're already coming up on the hour, not including what I have to edit back in. So let's just do a quick, what's going on with PAX East? Let's end on PAX East now, because I know Watch Dogs now release date's May the 27th, which this game's been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I hope this is a very solid date, because I'm actually looking forward to it. And also some gameplay footage of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, which is how I understood it is that it takes place between Borderlands 1 and 2, when it comes with a fall release. Did I miss anything on that?
No, they've had some gameplay and some graphic and some still images come out. Right now, 4 playable characters, including a claptrap playable character, which will make some people really happy, and some people like, oh god, no, not more claptrap. It all depends, because people fall on either end of that spectrum. There's usually no in-betweens. But really, I think the biggest news coming out of PAX is that it's expanding. They're going to have PAX South next year in San Antonio, Texas, which is pretty good because they've already got East and Prime in Seattle and in Boston. I actually turned that order around, and they also have PAX Australia. So, I mean, the fact that gaming conventions, conventions that are solely about gaming are growing, I think is a good sign for the industry.
Well, I always wouldn't mind seeing a new con of any type, as long as it has something to do. Hopefully, maybe one time they can reach their way up to us, which would be nice.
PAX North in Toronto, maybe?
Why not? They have the room. They apparently have the room.
Yep.
But I mean, it would be great to have another convention in the area. But I mean, really, from our specific location, within, and I'm going to just explain to everyone, like 2 hours every direction. There's only really maybe 6 to 7 official cons that we can go to every year without doing massive traveling. And I mean, and 2 of it just belongs to Toronto alone. So the Toronto Comic Con was great that we visited this year. Fan Expo is going to be that's going to be a long day.
Fan Expo is Fan Expo. There's really not much to compare that to.
No, Fan Expo is the big guy. But we also have our local homegrown based one. We have the Niagara Falls Comic Con, which is getting extremely huge every single year. So that's going to be very time consuming this year. Beyond that, we got Rick going to... Rick, did you say you're going to one this year? Down where you are?
In June, Phoenix Comic Con.
Phoenix Comic Con. There was just a con there recently, though. I think it's like a Walking Dead one or something to that effect.
There was one. I don't remember exactly when it was. It wasn't specifically Walking Dead, but they had a lot of the Walking Dead people there.
Oh. Well, that's going to be exciting. So, hopefully, if anyone from PAX is hearing this, maybe they'll think, maybe should we have a Canadian show? And maybe you should have it in Toronto.
Considering, we've got BioWare, Ubisoft, and a handful of other developers that work in this country, I don't think it would be a bad idea at all.
Yeah, especially when I got called to go do some beta testing for Ubisoft, and I had to turn it down.
And I would absolutely go to a PAX West. I mean, California's only a couple-hour drive for me.
Well, PAX Prime is the West Coast one in Seattle. The closest one to you, which I think is actually still the closest one to you, because I think you're closer to Seattle than you would be San Antonio, Texas, right?
No, actually, San Antonio is about 5 hours away. Seattle would be probably about a day.
Yeah, just a couple of hours difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're flying, yes.
Oh, that's right. You're in. I don't know why I keep thinking you're in Nevada. You're in Arizona.
Yeah, San Antonio's not that far away.
Yeah.
All right, so that will be this week's pod, and I have a pile of things to edit. Also this week, there will be a tech review podcast, which Rick and I interviewed the Kerplunk. Very interesting, because we discussed the new Galaxy S5, the LG G Flex, and the HTC One M8. And yes, Rick broke the podcast on one point when I was recording it. Good job, Rick.
I'm good at it, Hey, if I don't screw things up, it's not a good podcast.
And the news episode will not air until Tuesday. Please watch the page for Andrew's review of, what movie was it again?
Oculus. With,
Oculus.
Karen Gillan and Katie Sackhoff.
Ah, that's why you went. That explains your status now. All right, Does anyone have anything they want to toss in to the void?
I think these companies have more than enough money that they could spare a little bit to make a Deadpool movie, even if it's not popular.
It will be popular. Everyone wants a Deadpool movie. Just some people are just in denial about it. That's how I'm going to look at it. That's my delusion. I'm allowed to live in it.
if anybody's going to WonderCon in Anaheim this weekend, please find Wind of the Stars cosplay, take some pictures, and tell her we sent you. We're hoping to get her on for an interview next week. It's all going to depend on her sewing schedule, unfortunately. She's still working on costumes for that convention. But it's been confirmed that she is going to be on the podcast with us. Now it's just a matter of nailing down some time.
Yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. We have interviews going to be lined up for the next few months, so we got to try and sneak in as many people as we can.
Whose cell phone is ringing?
Not mine, because my phone's nowhere near me. It's not Rainer because she dropped off at some point.
I'm on my cell phone, so I don't know why it'd be ringing.
Just residual feedback. All right, well, this was...
Keep breaking it again.
This has been grand, to say at least. So, who wants to close it?
Wow, the silence is just...
Wow, everyone's fighting for it. I'll close it!
Let's just enjoy our chimichangas and watch some Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Thanks for listening to the Droids You Are Looking For podcast. Stay tuned for next week's podcast.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.